Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Microsoft Hero community session. My name is Puya, Microsoft Security MVP, MCT, and Community Leader at Microsoft Hero. Before having our great speaker tonight, I would love actually to have a couple of comments, same as always, for the community, and then we are going to have Akanksha on the stage. So first of all, the Microsoft Learn community is an ideal space, as I said always, to build your skills, connect with Microsoft experts, and receive genuine support throughout your learning journey that you have. So make sure you don't miss those learning rooms and community hub and a lot of information that you can access to. And you can, of course, find out the Microsoft Hero community there on the community. A bit of code of conduct. So be friendly and respectful to everyone. Listen to different opinions and be kind and patient when you're asking a question or answering some questions. So without further delay, I would like to introduce Akanksha Malik. We are very pleased to have another Microsoft AI MVP who is taking us through Azure AI functionalities and how to unlock document insights with Azure AI. So please join me in welcoming Akanksha on the stage. So Akanksha, great to have you tonight here. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I was about to be like jazz hands, and I don't know where jazz hands are coming into my brain, but welcome to stage. I'm like, oh, it's time. But no, that was a fabulous little intro, especially the music and everything. It's great.
Oh, awesome. No, great to have you tonight here. So I'm going to bring down my slides and then have your slides on the stage. Leave a stage. I'm beyond of the scene if you have any questions. But during the session, if anyone asking any questions, please feel free to post your questions in the chat window. We definitely get Akanksha at the end of the session to answer some of your questions. Thank you.
Perfect.
And the stage is yours.
Amazing. We'll get diving right in. Thank you so much for joining. I'm really excited to actually be talking to Microsoft Learn because I think in general, whenever I'm trying out something new in Microsoft or Azure, Microsoft Learn is the first place I go. They always have kind of those real quick starts or step-by-step tutorials, and it's just the easiest way to get familiar with everything that's sitting in any new product. And then after that, it's like, oh yeah, okay, this seems familiar to everything else I've used in Portal, and now I'm back to it, and I get where everything is, and I can make this work now. So giving back to the Learn community is definitely something I am always happy to do. But today's session, we're all joining in today to go through some document insights with Azure AI. Before we do that, though, a little bit of introductions. Priya did some really great job bringing me onto the stage and stuff. But yeah, my name's Akanksha. I am a managing principal at Iris, a AI-specific technology consulting company. So AI, data, all that jazz in terms of consulting, that's where my whole career has been. So I've been in the consulting space, God, for so many years now. But it all kind of started back along in that photo. So it's become a bit of a laugh at this stage that this photo has just followed me around. So that's me in college. So I'm from Ireland. I grew up there. And it's the easiest photo. It's just stuck around so long, especially when I started speaking and doing conferences and speaking things like this and community groups. I would get nervous at the start and I would talk really fast. And because I'm Irish, quite a lot oftentimes, my accent's mellowed out a little bit now, but at the start, a lot of people would just struggle to understand. So it was like, this is a good reminder. I was like, this is why, if at any stage you're struggling to understand me, please pop it into the comments. Or in person, I usually just get someone to start waving their hand, being like, I don't know what's happening. But yeah, so I studied financial maths and actuarial science. So I've got a whole lot of maths and stats background. And then over my career, have worked through a whole different heap of data and AI related projects in all different areas. So from data warehousing to reporting, and I've lived my fair share of Power BI reports, all the way through to ML and AI. So I worked at the time where no one really believed in the value of AI and machine learning. So things like document intelligence, I'd be like, no, I swear there's products that can do this and it'll be really quick and it'll be really helpful, but I can't promise the outcome until I do it. So can we get a POV done or anything like that? And now I'm haunted by the ghosts of all the POVs I've done in my life. So I've seen the whole shift from, we don't really understand this technology and we don't really want to spend money on it because we don't know what we'll get, to now where it's everyone just needs AI and we need it right now and we need to implement it immediately. So it's a really fascinating space to be in. But enough about me. What are we here for today? We are going to go over and cover off a little bit in terms of just Azure AI and where it's sitting at today, what it encompasses, everything that's contained within it. A little bit more around document intelligence. So really kind of focusing and narrowing in on kind of exactly the use cases, where it falls into it, why document intelligence on Azure might be a good fit in certain solutions. And then actually, how do we go about building that solution? So there is a live demo. I don't know if I've prayed enough to the gods yet today, but we will power through. We'll see where we get to with that demo. And hopefully, even just as we're working our way through, even if it does work or doesn't work, you get the experience of understanding where things sit and how you could go about maneuvering through the product and the service that exists for yourself. So with Azure AI, I swear, this has become the biggest hot topic in the world at this stage. Everyone wants a bit of it, which is great. It does make lives easier. It does make everything simpler. But quite often the question becomes how? How do we actually leverage it? How do we actually implement this? What do we actually do with this? Now we've done it. What else? Like, how do we actually use it now that we've got AI in the business? So when it comes to Azure AI, there's a whole range of different services that you can kind of be catering to. So this goes from things like Azure AI language and translation and speech services, which does everything related to kind of speech to text to speech, converting different things, analyzing what's written in certain text and stuff, having that sentiment analysis, all the way through to AI vision, which is really kind of narrowing in on, hey, we've got a video stream or we've got images, what can we really understand from it? AI search, which is your companion piece to almost every single solution, because you really need to be able to actually search your data. To have your data that's really quickly searchable so that it can actually then definitively give you results that you need. It's a fabulous service for that. And again, very, very straightforward and built to be used and leveraged very quickly. Moving through document intelligence, something that we'll be covering off today. Things like content safety, which is really important when we use a lot of this kind of stuff, because especially in the now world of generative AI, it is becoming quite hard to maintain kind of oversight as to what's actually being produced and where. So making sure you've got guardrails in place and content safety being checked at all times as to what's being produced and input in your services. And then we've got Azure Machine Learning, which is our classic old platform that hasn't gone anywhere. It's ready. It's there for you to be able to go in, build your machine learning models and solutions as you need to. I swear, it's like, this is where I started. My career was on Azure Machine Learning, where I would go in, do different things. And it just made so much sense. It was so intuitive. It's so great to use. And I think it was part of the reason why I downsized my laptop back when I did. Like, I think, I don't remember how many years it's been. It's been over 6-7 years now that I have had like an 8 gigabyte RAM laptop. I refuse to get anything bigger because I refuse to have any libraries and things downloaded onto my laptop at the stage, because I just need it to be really light for travel. But the main aspect of that is because I have things like Azure Machine Learning services on my handy beside me, so that I can just hop onto it whenever I do need to be able to do that. Spin up a virtual machine, have as much power as I need, and then spin it back down. And all of that is then really, really easily available. Also, I know I very conveniently skipped over Azure OpenAI service, because I feel like that is a very big part of it. It's really taken over in the last little bit, and so many different aspects of services that have come through there. So it is really enabling that leveraging of Gen AI. So some of those OpenAI models are now available within your Azure service through that. And that whole differentiation point from deterministic to non-deterministic models has really changed the way we look at a lot of things and actually approach it. Just for context, if you haven't heard those terms before, deterministic models, those are your machine learning models, what you're used to seeing before the whole eruption of ChatGPT and Gen AI models and GPT models. So deterministic essentially just means there's always going to be the same answer every time you do it. So machine learning in its essence was just based on maths and algorithms. So whenever you run an algorithm, you could always count on it coming back with the same answer. Non-deterministic in essence is essentially the exact opposite, because it's generating a response every time. It's based on probability and theories, what you're expecting to see on the other end of it is going to be different every time. So you can put in almost the same prompt every single time, and you're going to see some kind of a variance in response, unless you really, really lock that down in your guardrails. That's how you expect for these generative Gen AI solutions and models to actually behave. So it's really important to actually understand the difference and how you go about then leveraging the right solution that you need. So document intelligence, let's focus in on that. Why do we actually look at this and why do we consider it? So in terms of enterprise solutions, document intelligence is kind of at the heart of it all, really, when you consider it, because every single day, I'm sure all of us have looked at emails. I swear there's about 60 emails that have been unopened from today that has some kind of an attachment in each one of them. And there's some PDFs and there's images and there's screenshots and things are being passed around. And it's really important to be able to actually get the insight and information you need from them. When I was running my own business and I was having to invoice things, I would be getting invoices in, or I'll be sending invoices out, and they're just in PDF formats because that's the way the systems have been built around us. So how do we actually make sure we're capturing all the intelligence out of the documents that we are leveraging and using every single day? And once we are capturing that, how do we actually leverage it? Where do we go from it? What do we actually do with it? So that's essentially where our document intelligence piece comes into it. So what are these use cases where we're saying we can see? So I kind of mentioned why it's important because we see so much content flowing around. Some very specific use cases in terms of document intelligence would be invoice data, really. So you might have a business that has multiple invoices flowing through every single day, and they've got somebody sitting there in accounts where their job is to process those invoices, extract the things like PO number, invoice number, the amount of it, what was the task, the total amount, GST separated, and put it into the system for them to be able to process them later in the finance team. That's a very repetitive job, and it's quite prone to errors because of the manual aspect of it. And that's quite simply, very quickly automatable. And in the sense of we can free up that person's time to be able to do much more higher value tasks than having to just extract information and input into the system, where that process is almost automatically done. If there's any errors or any kind of sniggles, they just have to overview it, and they can then start doing the beginning process of actually processing that data and the invoice into the system as needed, and maybe doing some more of the work from the finance team. So it's really about how can we enable the people to be able to free up their time to do more higher value tasks, or even leveraging them to do further and further kind of analysis within the business. It just speeds up a lot of processes. So that's one use case. There's a whole heap of them. Any kind of environment where you can think of same kind of data coming in where it needs to be extracted and used, this is a perfect use case for it. But when it comes to that, choosing the right service is really important. So there's going to be so many different solutions you can use to enable that exact workflow, right? I've got a document coming in, I've got an invoice coming in, I need to extract the information and put that into the system. There is going to be a whole heap of solutions, right? You can bespoke code a solution where you're using one of the models to just extract all the information, take that information, you store it in a database somewhere, and then you process that to connect to a different thing, and it pushes the ETL pipelines onto the right place. That's one solution. There's another solution that you can then go and do more kind of automation within it, where things connect and something triggers something else. Or you can use a kind of out-of-the-box service. And it's really important to be able to choosing the right service for you. And what that really means is looking at, okay, how many of these invoices do I need to process? Is this a 10 invoices a month kind of a situation that could just be automated away? Or is this 10,000 invoices a month? What is my level of requirement? Do I just need to do something very quickly and I just need something out of the box? I don't need to have a whole development team employed. I need to find a data scientist who can build some models and put some integrations in. What do I actually need in my use case is really important. So I'm not saying that this is going to be always a right solution for you. Document intelligence is really, really handy to be able to very quickly validate a solution. Or if you are using it, if there's a very specific use case in your business and you just need that one stream automated because it's the same thing that's happening, but you don't need to go through a whole process of building a whole solution around it, this might be the right fit. So it's really important to value up the differences within your use case and your environment. This is the most consulting speak I will ever do. Like, it depends on what's happening for you. But it's really, really important because when it comes to AI and any solutions around it, I think it's something important to keep in mind is the more out of the box, kind of ready to go a solution is, the more costly it will be, because there's a lot more work done for you in that situation. So the cheapest option will be, I'm going to borrow a machine and I'll build all my code, I'll do all the work and everything else. I know which models I'm going to connect to, and I'm just going to use them just when I need to, and that's it. Everything else I've coded up to make logic happen. That's going to be the cheapest option, but it requires a lot more manual power to actually build that solution. So just be really, really aware of that as you work your way through. And I'm raising that because there is the pricing tiers. It's not the cheapest service out there. So it's just something to be aware of in terms of what are the prices for the services you need. And so when you are evaluating that, it's really important to actually really, it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, obviously, but like back of the kind of envelope calculations of how many services do I need? How many kind of invoices do I need to be reading? Do I need to use a pre-built model? Do I need to customize a classification? Like, what do I actually need to do? And we're going to go through details exactly of what those specific things are. Have I got, how many pages per invoice have I got on average? Is it 4 pages? Is it 1-page invoices? How many am I seeing? Because it'll help you analyze exactly what the pricing is going to be, and then actually assign it to your specific instance or the tier that you need. So it's just something to keep in mind. Right, with that, let's go in and dive into creating the resource. What does it look like? Where does it sit? So in your Microsoft Azure portal, if you look up Document Intelligence, this is where it'll pop you up to. And whenever you're trying to create a new resource or anything, you search for it, and in the top left corner, you'll always find the plus create button. So we can go through it. And maybe let's just, for demo's purposes, MS, I can type. Let's call this resource group MS Learn. Pick whatever region you would like, preferably somewhere close to you. I'll do Australia East. And then you need to pick your pricing tier. Next. And then after that, you can go through, create any kind of specific network aspects to it, have a look at the identity, if you want to create some tags to be able to find your service really quickly. And that's it. So that's all it really takes to actually create and set up a service. I won't hit the create button just because I already have some created for us, but you just hit create, it'll take a couple of minutes and it will be good to go. So diving back into our slides for a minute, creating a resource, very, very straightforward. So in the background, what we're going to see, actually, before we do this, sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place today. Once you create that, so let's say I've created this demo account. This is what the landing page will look like once you've actually created it. And let me show you what the studio then looks like. So when we click through into it, this is what your studio will look like. This is going to be a little bit of a get started with Intelligence Studio. When you hover over it, you can go click to learn more. That's going to bring you to your learnmicrosoft.com to find out more. That's very loud. And then there's a whole heap of different aspects within the landing page of what you can do. And there's a whole different range of things. So let's actually take them bit by bit as to exactly what they are. So there's going to be different types of models that you can leverage. So there's going to be just basic document analysis that you just go in, just having a look at the document, what's going on within it. There's going to be some pre-built models. So these are the kind of things of, hey, we see these kind of documents come up quite often, and Microsoft has gone through and basically pre-analyzed and processed them for you. So you don't need to train your own model, it's ready to go. And then there's the custom model. So when you've got an invoice that's very specific to your business, you can basically train it up onto that invoice. So it knows the layout, it knows what you want, and then you're good to go from there. So when it comes to document analysis, it has a few different aspects to it. So there's read, layout. Oh, sorry, I've skipped through. So this read and layout are the main ones. So you can basically say, hey, go and read this document, and it'll extract everything. And then there's also the layout analysis. So it'll go through, look at the layout, what's where, what's everything sitting within it. There's different use cases. And again, this is really specific for getting your document prepped and ready for this specific type of intelligence. So obviously, I'm sure everyone here is going to be like, well, I can just use my Copilot to do this for me in the business every single day. Agreed. This is getting your documents ready for intelligence and being able to extract and have something replicable every single time. So that's what this is specifically built for. And then when it comes to the pre-built models, so these are the kinds of pre-built models that they have built. So there's a whole heap of them for your financial services and your legal entities. So you've got your bank statement, if you've got checks, so this is very American focused in terms of some of the pre-built models. If you've got contracts, invoices, pay stubs, receipts, credit card information, all those kind of specific nuances. Again, if you are based in America, amazing. Excuse me, I'm just gonna have some little bit of water. So yeah, sorry, what I was saying was, because these are quite American focused, if the services and things you're using or the documents you're using are American too, great. You've got very handy resources built for you. If not, you are going to have to go through the custom route, which we're going to cover off today, and we'll go see exactly how you go about doing that. So again, you've got the US tax offers. So if you've got specific tax forms, those have already been pre-built. The models know exactly how to read those specific forms where everything's sitting within them. Similarly to the mortgages and your PII. So how do you take personal identification information from certain extracts? And then there is the custom models. And these are really handy in terms of actually how do I go about when my sample data doesn't fit the pre-built ones. So this will enable you to do document field extraction. So hey, in this document, I want to be able to extract this specific information from these fields, or custom classification where you actually classify exactly what you want, name everything as you want, do everything, whatever you want with it, and it'll enable you to do that. So let's go back into our studio from here and actually work through. So we kind of covered these off. So just to show you where these things then sit. So if you want to read or extract the layout from your documents, all of the pre-built models that we then talked about will be existing here. And then some of your custom models. So let's look at how we might go about building a custom extraction model. So let's give it a second. So I've built out a project for us that we can dive on through. So just to very quickly kind of give us an overview as to what's actually happening in this document. So when you're using custom data extraction, anything custom within Document Intelligence Studio, and this is where it stands out in terms of kind of simplicity and really low complexity of using the service, you need about 5 samples of your kind of whatever you're trying to extract, or your sample data or your invoices that you want to extract from the document. You need 5 samples of that document for your model to be trained. So that's how quick and easy it really is to be able to leverage this as a solution. So what you would do is obviously upload your photos or your images or your document. And once you've uploaded them, you can basically then do a, hey, I want to do a very quick layout analysis. And then I want to be able to auto-label the whole thing and go through and select everything. So maybe let's very quickly. Oh, sorry. Oh, because I did upload this already. That's all right. So I'm going to zoom in so we can walk our way through exactly what's happening in this information thing. So, and this is a really good way of actually showcasing exactly a kind of a solution that this would be really good for. So consultation request forms. So this could be a, what are they called? a law office, a law firm, where people kind of write and say, hey, this is what I need a consultation about. It could be a skincare clinic. It can be I don't know, I'm trying to think of other ones. Gardening, it can be tools and trades, all these different businesses that would have request forms available within their businesses. And what all they really need is like, hey, this is what I need, what I want to do. And once they've filled it out, you can have triggers and stuff built into your system. So, hey, if this form has a specific button ticked, make sure this form goes to this person. So if we're talking about law firms, if they're looking for an injury claim or a insurance claim or, I don't know, family services, when they've ticked the right button, it goes to the right office and the right business person that they need to be able to deal with. So there's a lot of different kind of customizations that you can do after this as well. So let's actually look at what you can do once you've done it. So once I've done a label, run the layout, which is clicking the button, it'll go and read everything that's in there. Let's zoom in here so I can show you what's happening in this form. So it's a request form. So I've got first name, last name. I've got the address. So it's broken down by city, state, zip code, phone number, email addresses, and then ticks. And there's a whole different bunch of different, exactly the same, but I've put in a few different samples of exactly what like people would react with, right? Some people might answer fully, some people might not. So I've given a few samples, and then I've gone through, and you can actually pick a region. So you can say, hey, I want to pick this specific thing, and I want to tag it and say, this is a label that I want you to extract every single time. So I'm going to end that one. I'm going to say delete. We don't need moisture to be selected. So that's essentially what I've done. So I've gone through, highlighted each piece, and then given it a name. So if I pull this out of it, you can see customer address is that red box. The yellow box is customer name, landscaping needs, which ones have been ticked, who will do the installation, what has been ticked. So I've basically gone through and actually picked out exactly what I need. So within this, right, you might only be interested in just a name and what button they've ticked, or you might be interested in just getting the information in terms of name, email address, and a phone number. You can pick and choose exactly what you want to take out of the form by highlighting and selecting and actually adding your customized fields on top. Once you're ready, once you're happy with everything that you've selected for extraction, you hit train. And what that will do is help you give it a model ID, description, tell it exactly what you want it to train on, and kind of limit your training numbers and hours. And it'll go and run a training data on the set. Oh, I have definitely created the model earlier today. Why has it disappeared? Was there a different one? I'm so sorry. I definitely thought I created this. Yes, there we go. Definitely much more recent than that, but okay. So let's upload a screenshot of another file. So similarly, this one's been filled out. Let's run analysis. It's gone through. And as we selected previously, it's gone through and actually picked up every single thing we've asked for in our form and given this back to us as we requested. And I guess something I want to point out, and I did this kind of on purpose. So when I said, give me customer name, it's pulled out, obviously, Sanjeev, last name, Dagger. So it's interesting that it's done that because I've highlighted everything in that box. So it's just going to extract everything you've asked for it. So when you're doing this, it's really important to actually kind of go through and like really look at it from a very specific lens where, okay, I might want to pull out first name and last name separately. And then in my ETL processes, I can go concatenate those as I need to. If you look at the address, that's done pretty well. I think the pop-up has gone a little bit to the side, but you can kind of see it's pulling out the name, suburb, and then the postcode on the other side of it. Phone number, it's pulled it out as it should. Again, email has been very accurate. And that's essentially just showcasing how quickly this will go through. So just to give you an idea in terms of how long this took. So we uploaded those 5 images. I went through and just picked up those query label boxes. Once those, that would have taken a little bit of time, just highlighting and picking a piece. It's a little bit of a drag and drop option. So it does take a couple of minutes to do that. So I think it would have taken, from memory, it took me about 10 minutes. And then the training of this model based on those 5 images, I left it to the automated in the system, which was about 30 minutes. So I hit train, it went through, trained up itself, and was good to go from there onwards. So that's essentially how long it's taken for me to be able to have a model ready that will then pull out all the information that I need as I've asked for it. That can be then leveraged and used as you need to. So you can then see your data, your results. Let me expand this. Okay, it doesn't want to expand. That's very annoying. Oh, there we go, a little bit better. So you can see your JSON code in response, and you can actually then extract that code and leverage everything you need out of that, and you can build that into your next pipeline as you need. You can also see the exact code if you want to put this into a notebook to be able to go through from there, and it'll actually go through and create sample codes that you can then leverage onto. And again, there's going to be a whole heap of different aspects available to you to go through in Microsoft Learn. So when I actually dive into it here, what I would recommend, and I think it's actually really enjoyable to do this, so genuinely do recommend this, on Microsoft Learn, if you go into specifically for document intelligence, there's all the kind of overviews. What is it? What do I do with this? What's changed? Pricing details, kind of service limitations, and how much does billing cost and how does it work, to really in-depth details around all the pre-built models that we talked about. The custom models that we talked about, how can we do different things within it, custom labeling tips, which is really, really handy. So things like I was just talking about today earlier, where I was like, first name, maybe just highlight it very specifically. And then things that there's going to be best practices and things you can see for yourself as you're going through, labeling different regions and OCR, overlapping fields, be really careful with that. So there's all these different features, but it's really important to kind of go through. I think I find this the most helpful, are your quick starts. So this is going to be really kind of, okay, this is how you set up these things. What are these individual aspects? What can you do next? We need to create all the different bits and pieces. Where can you save your data? How do you connect your data to it? How can you then train it up to read exactly what you want to train it? All that's really laid out for you. So my aim for today really was to give you a very quick overview as to where this thing sits, how does it look like. I hope you've gotten a really good idea of kind of, okay, I remember it went into this and I had to go train a model and then I had to test it. This is how I went about setting it up. That was the main aim. And I can give you the right kind of jumping points from here to be able to go in and actually building your own solutions. If you have receipts that you need to catalog and maintain for expenses, for example, this is a great, really, really handy tool for that. Would recommend if you're sick of having to sit down and write them all up at the end of a week or a month, or if you're like me at the end of the year and then you hate yourself a lot for having to do that constantly. But there's going to be whole different heaps of different kind of solutions that you can leverage. And it's going to be a great way of testing it out and playing around with it just so you get comfortable. And then if there is a requirement for this in certain areas of your business, it's something that you can go have a conversation about and test out. So let me pop back into this. Oh, sorry, skipped one thing. The main aspect of what I want to touch on here is people are going to say, I can put this into ChatGPT and it'll tell me exactly what I want to know from that document very quickly. And you're not wrong. You're very, very right. The kind of reason we do it through Azure and we do it through services like this is for the aspect of data and data security. So it's really, really important, especially when you're using enterprise data, that there is secure enterprise solutions that you actually leverage to do that. So I'm really hoping no one here is putting up company invoice details and screenshots or images or PDFs into ChatGPT. Please don't do that. It's really important to keep that within an environment that it can be secured. And so the leverage data that's being extracted and moved and manipulated and placed into different places is all within the realm of previously secure and locked down services. So that's why this is important, and that's why these things actually exist. So it's just something I definitely wanted to touch on and kind of keep in mind as we go through. So there's reasons for these things existing. I know there's potentially very simple kind of this, I do this every single day, but how do you make sure that can be done at scale in a very secure environment? That's the real challenge that we see every single day when we're trying to solve these solutions. So with that, I will stop talking at people. So if you have any questions, I would love to be able to answer them. And I'd love to hear how, if you have used it before, what you're using it for. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. How are we thinking? How are we ready to start using document intelligence in our day-to-day business?
Thanks, Akanksha. I think it was very great session information, very quick and sharp. Some of those learnings, I think, was great and insightful. Maybe one question from Matthew, which I'm bringing at this stage. You can see that. So, yeah, Matthew, just thanking you for the informative sessions. Will the custom extraction model provide a confidence score when converting the handwritten forms into digital format?
Yep. So it comes up with a, hey, I think it's this accurate, which, let me just see if I still have it open. So we can see that, and this is the confidence score comes up straight away with it. So usually when it's things like emails and things that's used to understanding, it'll be a higher percentage. So phone numbers, emails, they'll be pretty high. But things like customer name, for example, is like last name. I think even it understands that it's probably not right. And then the address is much lower confidence because there's a lot more difference. And in fairness, my writing is terrible. So it is struggling. It's missed. I think I just wrote it terribly, and which I did again on purpose to make sure that see how it reacts to that scenario. So it's picked up 32.08 instead of 3208, which is the suburb, which is interesting because I can't spot a point. Actually, I can kind of see that being a dot point. So, and again, it's really important to run these kind of things bit by bit and then see, okay, how have you reacted? Where is the kind of fall points where it's like, hey, you're not doing so well on this. So let's maybe add more information or more training data to help you get better at that. So it will come up with it straight away in your testing scenario in the studio itself.
I think you answered a bit of the next one, which is again coming from Matthew, which is he's asking, actually, I'm looking for a feature that if handwritten form contains difficult to read script, flag it for a human review in the human in the loop process part of, any AI solutions that we are saying human in the loop.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, I think what I would usually do, I would say is like the result in a JSON format, for example, it'll have so it'll have the exact confidence of each of those things. And you can essentially say, hey, as an overall confidence, if it's lower than X percentage, whatever you're having gone through your data, what it's coming out at, if it's lower than 70%, it needs to be flagged or whatever the marker that you want to set forward. So that's how you can kind of set that and choose exactly where things need to get flagged for review within your thing. And within this, right, you can set up a pipeline of anything over this percentage goes to this blob storage, or it goes to this, or if it's lower than this, they drop down into this landing zone, which might be a blob store. And whenever there's new data in there, that might set off a trigger for someone to say, hey, someone needs to review this. So there's a whole heap of different ways you can actually go and do that.
Yeah, great. And probably the next question from Inshita. She's loved the session. So great overview. Can you increase the confidence score or provide more than 5 samples to make the model better?
Yeah, for sure. 5 is kind of the basic it needs as a starting point. So I'd kind of recommend 5 just as a, how well are you doing? Where are you at? What's your fall point? So very quickly we can see, okay, email, phone numbers, things like that. Very good. Next thing we need to see, okay, zip code needs to be an extraction field on its own. First name and last name need to be separated. You start understanding those things. So I'd recommend kind of do a 5, see what needs to be fixed, then try again. And it's a bit of a, okay, how do I make sure I'm getting the right information I want for the extraction? And especially when it comes to any of these kind of things, the smaller sample size, the better when you start. Otherwise, it starts charging you a lot more. So once you've gotten it narrowed down to exactly what you want it to do, you can then start scaling that out.
And is that right? Actually, saying, except of course, you're uploading some files to get actually access to it. I could say actually it has a fetch from URL and those type of things. So for the organization, they can, if they have, for example, a document library of the SharePoint, which is a huge number of the files is inside of that. So can they just give the URL of the document library to scan the files, all of the files there? And is that neat? Because I know in the purview at the moment, that capability required actually the files, especially images, those pictures, those type of things, needs to be re-uploaded or updated to get scanned by purview functionality through the OCR functionality. But I'm not sure if Document Intelligence is doing automatically, or is that also need actually to have a new version of the files to do a scan automatically if the file is already there?
It's a great question that I do not have the answer to off the top of my head. It's something I would look up on Microsoft Learn. Sorry, I feel like I've become a walking ad for Microsoft Learn, but it's going to be the easiest way to find out exactly where that would be. And as I'm saying that, right, like, I mean, I think, do we still have it open? Like, you can go through and actually get to custom models, and there'll be something in there in terms of data connectivity. I'll find it later and I can come back to you with an answer and pop it in there afterwards. But yeah, so in terms of exactly what the data in the format it needs to be, so there is some limitations in terms of the format it needs to be in that you can then work through and actually have a look at and make sure it matches up to that.
Yeah, I think one question was about actually just about the use cases, especially when using actually document intelligence for the purpose of security. I think you mentioned very well about that, which is some of the organization, they should actually upload those type of sensitive information to the ChatGPT or very public AI type of Gen AI solutions. That makes sense, is coming to that. So I'm assuming, is that right to say, which is document intelligence is going to be based on wherever you are creating your sources in the region in Azure, is going to actually just keep your data compliant against any regulation or any, that you're following, your organization following as a standard.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I think it comes back to, especially when it comes to regions, obviously things like like the newer updates of things that come out are only available in certain regions. So making sure your data can actually travel to those regions, right? Like, we're lucky here in Australia, we've got Australia East, but a lot of countries don't have a direct data center within there. So is it okay for the data that you're using to travel essentially out of sovereign lines to go to a different entity to be able to be processed there? Make sure you're doing all those checks. But in terms of actually maintaining that sovereignty, that's essentially the process, the kind of bonus and the pros for this is where if you've got a tenancy, if you've already got accounts, and if you've already got your whole business set up on cloud, and if it's on Azure, this makes complete sense because you can link directly to it. The solutions and the results come back straight in, and you could put it back into your pre-existing data warehouses or lakehouses or whatever else you already have in there. All of that just essentially works kind of seamlessly, but also has that full end-to-end kind of data protection, whether your data is in transit or at rest or whatever else it may be.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, probably some of those areas about the integration with other Azure services like Logic Apps or Power Automate or any other platform which is doing the automation as part of that process that you mentioned end to end. So I believe that it's very easy to get integrated to other services, Microsoft for non-Microsoft services, which you can actually get to that. So maybe one extra question from my side about what's exciting you when you look at the roadmap of this Azure AI service, especially for the document processing space? So what's exciting you, which is including the roadmap, to get developed? Do you have anything in your mind at the moment to share?
I don't think there's anything like kind of that I'm like, oh my God, I need this out, to be honest, tomorrow. There isn't, I'll be honest, because I'm barely keeping up with the amount of things that are coming out every single day at the rate it's going. So I'm kind of like, can it slow down, please? But I think what I'm really excited about, and especially with things like this, right? Like, I don't think I actually said this, but the power of this is enabling your everyday business person to be able to build a solution, because it is fair. It's nuanced, but it's fairly straightforward. It has all the layouts of, hey, it's just step by step. You pull this in. It's fairly uncomplicated. and they can be then connected up, and it's really helping to leverage and upskill kind of your everyday person into leveraging these AI solutions. So for me, when I look at AI Foundry and Azure Foundry, all these different bits and pieces of it, I think it's just making it a lot simpler for people to actually leverage a lot of this new AI advances, the Gen AI aspects of things that are making our lives easier. Because I think if we all remember all the kind of horror stories of people putting up whole company code bases into ChatGPT and it getting leaked and so on and so forth. And I think it had a really interesting impact of a lot of people were just like, okay, I just don't put anything in there then. Like, I just don't use that. So we're seeing a lot of people leveraging Copilot now. It's starting to become a thing, but I also see people slowly kind of maneuvering their way out of just Copilot and actually leveraging some of these kind of technologies. And that's what I'm really excited about, is that upskill that we're all kind of waiting for with AI, where it's like, oh my God, AI is going to take all our jobs. But I think it's just redefining the jobs that we do and how we do them. So that shift that's happening, that's what I'm really excited about. So all these different solutions and stuff that are coming through and making them really, really accessible, which, I mean, I feel like I've been yabbering on about that for the last 10 years now of, hey, how can we make AI accessible? It's finally happening. So that's really, really exciting, I think.
No, that's definitely spot on what you mentioned. So, and that's exciting. Every organization, as you said, is customizing the solutions for their what is a pain point in the organization normally. So, which is great to see actually organizations starting towards actually to have the custom solutions and take advantage of AI for these processes and business transformation. So, is that maybe the next question? We have two more questions in the chat. One from Matthew again. Is there a recommended paper from templates available to make documents more AI readable and compatible with document intelligence?
I'd recommend having a look at the kind of the tips and pieces of that. In general, it comes back to, if it's digitally written, you're not going to struggle too much, as long as you're highlighting the right bits of pieces that you want to extract from it. If there's handwriting involved, there is going to be a level of nuance attached to it, as always. So in terms of templates, I think it's just more if you can space it out. Because if, as you saw, right, there's overlapping happening in certain aspects when I was like trying to choose different pieces. If you can space it out so that that doesn't happen, probably makes it a little bit easier. That's probably the biggest one that I've seen when I've been using these kind of services. So that's what I'd call out.
Cool. Awesome. And the next question from Pablo. Is it correct to say this service targets case where we have many documents with defined fields? I also know that the Mistral OCR service now offered in Azure, that I suppose that is for RAC.
I think this is more, I mean, the main aspect is where it's repeated information in the same kind of spots, right? So things like receipts, things like invoices, you can always count it and be like, right, there's an address over here because I need to put a supplier address into my system. I have to put a PO number against it, and I have to put an invoice number against which one it is, how much was it, and what was the task for. There's always going to be the same information you actually need to be able to put into very predefined fields. That's usually kind of where this really shines, because it's very expected. It's, again, kind of going back to more almost that deterministic aspect of machine learning and using the AI. So there's all these different, and this kind of goes back to OCR service as a bare minimum has existed for a very long time, right? I'm sure we've seen that from years and years ago where we could just see, hey, I've got a digital thing, put it through, it'll pick out everything in there and put that back to you. But when you use very just basic OCR, how does it deal with tables? How does it deal with graphs that are built into your documents? How does it deal with extracting that information? How well or badly does it do in that scenario? This has been built to understand those things. That's kind of where it shines. And also then to ignore some of those things because you don't need that information. So it only actually takes out what you really need after a pre-read. So it's kind of a places of how do I do that segregation after my OCR has completed? It's removing that aspect of it, right? So I can run a digital, like I can run that form, say OCR. How do I then go back and say, I want just this part over here to go into this field in a data table. How do I do that? That's where that kind of separation and the extraction piece changes a little bit from just basic OCR.
Yeah. And it's just lighting another question in my mind based on what you said. So when it's detecting all of those elements in their files and documents that you mentioned. So how is it going to be protected as the next steps, or as you said, probably some of those needs to be moved based on the organization's requirements to make it sure, for example, the file shouldn't be in that specific location, should be moved somewhere else based on what is identified, and accuracy, of course, accuracy of those classification, which is going to be identified as per classification that you have. But I'm assuming, I'm not 100% sure, maybe you know that, but it's more probably these document intelligence can be integrated with some other Microsoft solutions, like as Microsoft Purview for data security classifications, which is Microsoft Purview is providing to protect the data, which is scanned or identified in different documents. Is that right?
From memory, yes. But I could be wrong. I just haven't looked at the specifics of where with all the. I mean, I feel like they're updating the connections into Purview every day now. But
yeah,
I think. I mean, yes, I should be in theory. But at a base level, right? Like all of your data is sitting specifically in your environment. It's being processed and but kept. Once it's been processed, it's still staying within there. So that is what I'd say. But I will double check that one. I would recommend double check that.
That's great. I've just come up to my head. I would just probably that's something for myself to check as well, because I'm not 100% sure too. So no, I think it was a great session. I think we answered all of the questions that we had in the chat from different platforms. So thanks again for your session, Akanksha. Any closing sentence or anything that you want to address further?
Oh geez, I didn't expect that one. Like all the questions, like that's the one that's thrown me. No, like thank you for listening. If you do end up trying this out, or if there's any kind of document intelligence kind of stuff that you want to talk about, absolutely reach out to me. I'm more than happy to have a chat about how you go about it. And I want to hear about people doing these things. It's always fun to be like, hey, I tried this thing you said. And I'm like, oh my God, really? Have I influenced somebody to do something? It's always fun to hear that. But yeah, no, if there is ever anything related to this that you're like, I don't really understand, feel free to reach out. And if you are looking for more of a deep dive and things, I did build out like a LinkedIn course all around document intelligence and AI search. So there's a whole heap of kind of real broken down information that exists out there on LinkedIn. So feel free to have a look at it.
Awesome. Thanks again, Akanksha. Everyone, thanks for joining for today's sessions. Feel free to follow up actually on LinkedIn, YouTube, community, Microsoft Learn. We are having upcoming sessions around the world happening. Of course, 2-3 more actually sessions we have in APAC region with the greatest speakers. But thank you again for joining and have a great night.
Cheers.